Good morning, Team Alabama. Please join me in reading in the Hunger Games on page 294. What does he mean? The storm, the brief respite it brings us? The games themselves, I don't know, but I am too sad and tired to ask. It's evening when Peeta wakes me again. The rain has turned into a downpour, sending streams of water through our ceiling where earlier there had only been drips. Peeta has placed the broth pot under the worst one and repositioned the plastic to deflect most of it from me. I feel a bit better, able to sit up without getting too dizzy, and I'm absolutely famished. Famished means super hungry. So is Peeta. It's clear he's been waiting for me to wake up to eat and is eager to get started. There's not much left. 2 pieces of grusling, a small mishmash of roots, and a handful of dried fruit. Should we try and ration it? Peeta asks. No, let's just finish it. The grusling's getting old anyway, and the last thing we need is to get sick off of spoiled food, I say, dividing the food into 2 equal piles. We try and eat slowly, but we're both so hungry we're done in a couple of minutes. My stomach is in no way satisfied. Tomorrow's a hunting day, I say. I won't be much help with that, Peeta says. I've never hunted before. I'll kill and you cook, I say, and you can always gather. I wish there was some sort of bread bush out there, says Peeta. The bread they sent from District 11 was still warm, I say with a sigh. Here, chew these. I hand him a couple of mint leaves and pop a few in my own mouth. It's hard to even see the projection in the sky, but it's clear enough to know there were no more deaths today. So Cato and Thrush haven't had it out yet. Where did Thrush go, I mean? What's on the far side of the circle, I ask Peeta. A field. As far as you can see, it's full of grasses, as high as my shoulders. I don't know, maybe some of them are grain. There are patches of different colors, but there are no paths, says Peeta. I bet some of them are grain. I bet Thrush knows which ones, too, I say. Did you go in there? No, nobody really wanted to track Thrush down in that grass. It has a sinister feeling to it. Every time I look at that field, all I can think of are hidden things, snakes, rabid animals, and quicksand. Peeta says, there could be anything in there. I don't say so, but Peeta's words remind me of the warnings they give us about not going beyond the fence in District 12. I can't help for a moment comparing him with Gale, who would see that field as a potential source of food as well as a threat. Thrush certainly did. It's not that Peeta's soft exactly, and he's proved he's not a coward, but there are things you don't question too much, I guess, when your home always smells like baking bread, whereas Gale questions everything. What would Peeta think of the irreverent banter that passes between us as we break the law each day? Would it shock him? The things we say about Panem, Gale's tirades against the Capitol. Maybe there's a bread bush in that field, I say. Maybe that's why Thrush looks better fed now than when we started the games. Either that or he's got a very generous sponsor, says Peeta. I wonder what we'd have to do to get Haymitch to send us some bread. I raise my eyebrows before I remember he doesn't know about the message Haymitch sent us a couple of nights ago. 1 kiss equals 1 pot of broth. It's not the sort of thing I can blurt out either. To say my thoughts aloud would be tipping off the audience that the romance has been fabricated to play on their sympathies, and that would result in no food at all. Somehow, believably, I've got to get things back on track. Something simple to start with. I reach out and take his hand. Well, he probably used up a lot of resources helping me knock you out, I say mischievously. Yeah, about that, says Peeta, entwining his fingers in mine. Don't try something like that again. Or what, I ask. Or, he can't think of anything good. Just give me a minute. What's the problem, I say with a grin. The problem is we're both still alive, which only reinforces the idea in your mind that you did the right thing, says Peeta. I did do the right thing, I say. No, just don't, Katniss. His grip tightens, hurting my hand, and there's real anger in his voice. Don't die for me. You won't be doing me any favors, all right? I'm startled by his intensity, but recognize an excellent opportunity for getting food, so I try to keep up. Maybe I did it for myself, PETA. Did you ever think of that? Maybe you aren't the only one who worries about what it would be like if I fumble. I'm not as smooth with words as PETA, and while I'm talking, the idea of actually loving or losing PETA hit me again, and I realize how much I don't want him to die. And it's not about the sponsors, and it's not about what will happen back home, and it's not just that I don't want to be alone, it's him. I do not want to lose the boy with the bread. If what, Katniss, he says softly. I wish I could pull the shutters closed, blocking out this moment from the prying eyes of Panem. Even if it means losing food, whatever I'm feeling, it's no one's business but mine. That's exactly the kind of topic Haymitch told me to steer clear of, I say evasively, although Haymitch never said anything of the kind. In fact, he's probably cursing me out right now for dropping the ball during such an emotionally charged moment. But PETA somehow catches it. Then I'll just have to fill in the blanks myself, he says, and moves into me. This is the first kiss that we're both fully aware of, neither of us hobbled by sickness or pain, or simply unconscious, our lips neither burning with fever or icy cold. This is the first kiss where I actually feel stirring inside my chest, warm and curious. This is the first kiss that makes me want another. But I don't get it. Well, I do get a second kiss, but it's just a light one on the tip of my nose because PETA's been distracted. I think your wound is bleeding again. Come on, lie down. It's bedtime anyways, he says. My socks are dry enough to wear now. I make PETA put his jacket back on. The damp cold seems to cut right down to my bones, so he must be half frozen. I insist on taking the first watch too, although neither of us think it's likely anyone will come in this weather. But we won't agree unless I'm in the bag too, and I'm shivering so hard that it's pointless to object. In stark contrast to 2 nights ago, when I felt PETA was a million miles away, I'm struck by his immediacy now. As we settle in, he pulls my head down to use his arm as a pillow. The others rest protectively over me even when he goes to sleep. No one has held me like this in such a long time. Since my father died and I stopped trusting my mother, no one else's arms have made me feel this safe. With the aid of the glasses, I lie watching the drips of the water splatter on the cave floor, rhythmic and lulling. Several times I drift off briefly and then snap awake guiltily and angry with myself. After 3 or 4 times, I can't help it. I have to rouse PETA because I can't keep my eyes open. He doesn't seem to mind. Tomorrow, when it's dry, I'll find us a place so high in the trees that we can both sleep in peace, I promise, as I drift off. But tomorrow is no better in terms of weather. The deluge, meaning the rain, the huge rain, continues as if the game makers are intent on washing us all away. The thunder's so powerful it seems to shake the ground. PETA's considering heading out anyway to scavenge for food, but I tell him in the storm it would be pointless. He won't be able to see 3 feet in front of his face, and he'll only end up getting soaked to the skin for his troubles. He knows I'm right, but the gnawing in our stomachs is becoming painful. The day drags on, turning into evening, and there's no break in the weather. Haymitch is our only hope, but nothing is forthcoming. Either from lack of money, everything will cost an exorbitant amount, or because he's dissatisfied with our performance, probably the latter. I'd be the first to admit we're not exactly riveting today. Starving, weak from injuries, trying not to reopen wounds. We're sitting huddled together, wrapping in the sleeping bag. Yes, but mostly to keep warm. The most exciting thing either of us does is nap. I'm not really sure how to ramp up the romance. The kiss last night was nice, but working up to another will take some forethought. There are girls in the seam, some of the merchant girls too, who navigate these waters so easily, but I've never had much time or use for it. Anyway, just a kiss isn't enough anymore, clearly, because if it was, we'd have gotten food last night. My instincts tell me Haymitch isn't just looking for physical affection. He wants something more personal, the sort of stuff he was trying to get me to tell about myself when we were practicing for the interview. I'm rotten at it. But Peeta's not. Maybe the best approach is to get him talking. Peeta, I say lightly, you said at the interview you'd had a crush on me forever. When did forever start? Oh, let's see. I guess the first day of school. We were 5. You had a red plaid dress on and your hair. It was in 2 braids instead of 1. My father pointed you out when we were waiting to line up, Peeta says. Your father? Why? I ask. He said, see that little girl? I wanted to marry her mother, but she ran off with a coal miner, Peeta says. What? You're making that up, I exclaim. No, true story, Peeta says. And I said, a coal miner? Why did you want a coal miner if she could have had you? And he said, because when he sings, even the birds stop to listen. That's true. They do. I mean, they did, I say. I'm stunned and surprisingly moved, thinking of the baker telling this to Peeta. It strikes me that my own reluctance to sing, my own dismal dismissal of music might not really be that I think it's a waste of time. It might be because it reminds me too much of my father. Okay, Team Alabama, we're stopping there for today. Please go ahead and add some facts to your Google Doc, some questions, and some vocab. Have a great rest of your day.